The Shawshank Redemption is a 1994 American drama film written and directed by Frank Darabont and starring Tim Robbins and Morgan Freeman. It is ranked number 1 in IMDb's top 250 list and is considered one of the best movies of all time. Adapted from the Stephen King novella Rita Hayworth and Shawshank Redemption, the film tells the story of Andy Dufresne, a banker who spends 19 years in Shawshank State Prison for the murder of his wife and her lover despite his claims of innocence. During his time at the prison, he befriends a fellow inmate, Ellis Boyd Redding, and finds himself protected by the guards after the warden begins using him in his money laundering operation. Despite a lukewarm box office reception that barely recouped its budget, the film received multiple award nominations and outstanding reviews from critics for its powerful acting and realism. It has since been successful on cable television, VHS, DVD, and Blu-ray. It was included in the American Film Institute's 100 Years 100 Movies 10th Anniversary Edition. Plot: in 1947, banker Andy Dufresne is convicted of murdering his wife and her lover and sentenced to 2 consecutive life sentences at the fictional Shawshank State Penitentiary in the state of Maine. Andy quickly befriends contraband smuggler Ellis Redding, an inmate serving a life sentence. Red procures a rock hammer and later a large poster of Rita Hayworth for Andy. Working in the prison laundry, Andy is regularly assaulted by the Bullquig gang, the sisters, and their leader, Boggs. In 1949, Andy overhears the brutal captain of the guards Byron Hadley complaining about being taxed on an inheritance and offers to help him legally shelter the money. After a vicious assault by the sisters nearly kills Andy, Hadley beats Boggs severely. Boggs is sent to another prison and Andy is never attacked again. Warden Samuel Norton meets with Andy and reassigns him to the prison library to assist elderly inmate Brooks Hatlin. Andy's new job is a pretext for him to begin managing financial matters for the prison employees. As time passes, the warden begins using Andy to handle matters for a variety of people including guards from other prisons and the warden himself. Andy begins writing weekly letters to the state government for funds to improve the decaying library. In 1954, Brooks is paroled, but cannot adjust to the outside world after 50 years in prison and hangs himself. Andy receives a library donation that includes a recording of the marriage of Figaro. He plays an excerpt over the public address system, resulting in his receiving solitary confinement. After his release from solitary, Andy explains that hope is what gets him through his time, a concept that Red dismisses. In 1963, Norton begins exploiting prison labor for public works, profiting by undercutting skilled labor costs and receiving kickbacks. He has Andy launder the money using the alias Randall Stevens. In 1965, Tommy Williams is incarcerated for burglary. He joins Andy's and Red's circle of friends, and Andy helps him pass his GED exam. In 1966, Tommy reveals to Red and Andy that an inmate at another prison claimed responsibility for the murders Andy was convicted of, implying Andy's innocence. Andy approaches Warden Norton with this information, but the warden refuses to listen and sends Andy back to solitary when he mentions the money laundering. Norton then has Captain Hadley murder Tommy under the guise of an escape attempt. Andy refuses to continue the money laundering, but relents after Norton threatens to burn the library, remove Andy's protection from the guards, and move him out of his cell into worse conditions. Andy is released from solitary confinement and tells Red of his dream of living in Zihuatanejo, a Mexican coastal town. Red feels Andy is being unrealistic, but promises Andy that if he is ever released he will visit a specific hay field near Buxton, Maine and retrieve a package Andy buried there. Red becomes worried about Andy's state of mind, especially when he learns Andy asked another inmate to supply him with 6 feet of rope. The next day at roll call the guards find Andy's cell empty. An irate Warden Norton throws a rock at the poster of Raquel Welch hanging on the wall, and the rock tears through the poster. Removing the poster, the warden discovers a tunnel that Andy dug with his rock hammer over the previous 2 decades. The previous night, Andy escaped through the tunnel and used the prison's sewage pipe to reach freedom. Andy escapes with Norton's suit, shoes, and the ledger containing details of the money laundering. While guards search for him the following morning, Andy poses as Randall Stevens and visits several banks to withdraw the laundered money. Finally, he mails the ledger and evidence of the corruption and murders at Shawshank to a local newspaper. The police arrive at Shawshank and take Hadley into custody, while Norton commits suicide to avoid arrest. After serving 40 years, Red is finally paroled. He struggles to adapt to life outside prison and fears he never will. Remembering his promise to Andy, he visits Buxton and finds a cache containing money and a letter asking him to come to Zihuatanejo. Red violates his parole and travels to Fort Hancock, Texas to cross the border to Mexico, admitting he finally feels hope. On a beach in Zihuatanejo he finds Andy, and the two friends are happily reunited. Cast: Tim Robbins as Andy Dufresne, Morgan Freeman as Ellis Boyd Red Redding, Andy's best friend and the film's narrator. Convicted of murder in 1927. Before Freeman was cast, Clint Eastwood, Harrison Ford, Paul Newman, and Robert Redford were each considered for the role. Although written as a middle-aged Irishman with graying red hair, Darabont cast Freeman for his authoritative presence and demeanor. He could not see anyone else as Red. The short dialogue with Andy is a jest towards this casting decision, as when asked about the origin of his nickname, Red answers, "Maybe it's because I'm Irish." Bob Gunton is Warden Samuel Norton. He is well versed in the Bible and presents himself as a pious, devout Christian and reform-minded administrator, while his actions reveal him to be corrupt, ruthless, and remorseless. William Sadler is Hayworth, a member of Red's gang of long-serving convicts. Clancy Brown is Captain Byron Hadley, Chief of the Guards. Hadley is a sadistic guard who thinks nothing of delivering beatings to the inmates to keep them in line. When cast for the role, Brown declined the offer to study real-life prison guards as preparation for his role, because he did not want to base it on any one person. Gil Bellows as Tommy Williams, a young convict whose experiences in a previous prison hold the truth about Andy's innocence. Mark Rolston as Boggs Diamond, the head of the Sisters gang and a prison rapist. James Whitmore as Brooks Hadlin, prison librarian trustee and one of the oldest convicts at Shawshank, having been in prison since 1905. Darabont cast Whitmore because he was one of his favorite character actors. Jeffrey Damon as the prosecuting attorney in Andy Dufresne's trial. Themes: Chicago Sun-Times film reviewer Roger Ebert suggested that the Shawshank Redemption is an allegory for maintaining one's feeling of self-worth when placed in a hopeless position. Andy Dufresne's integrity is an important theme in the storyline, especially in prison, where integrity is lacking. Isaac M. Morehouse suggests that the film provides a great illustration of how characters can be free, even in prison, or unfree, even in freedom, based on one's outlook on life. Production: Frank Darabont secured the film adaptation rights from author Stephen King after impressing the author with his short film adaptation of The Woman in the Room in 1983. Although the two had become friends and maintained a pen-pal relationship, Darabont did not work with him until 4 years later in 1987, when he optioned to adapt Shawshank. This is one of the more famous dollar deals made by King with aspiring filmmakers. Darabont later directed The Green Mile, which was based on another work about a prison by Stephen King, and then followed that up with an adaptation of King's novella The Mist. Rob Reiner, who had previously adapted another King novella, The Body, into the film Stand By Me, offered $2.5 million in an attempt to write and direct Shawshank. He planned to cast Tom Cruise in the part of Andy and Harrison Ford as Red. Darabont seriously considered and liked Reiner's vision, but he ultimately decided it was his chance to do something really great by directing the film himself. Though the film is set in Maine, the Ohio State Reformatory in Mansfield, Ohio, served as the fictional Shawshank Prison. Though a large portion of the prison was torn down after filming, the main administration building and 2 cell blocks remained. The site was revisited later for filming parts of the film Air Force One. Several of the interior shots of the specialized prison facilities, such as the admittance rooms and the warden's office, were shot in the reformatory. The interior of the boarding room used by Brooks and Red was located in the administration building, though exterior shots were made elsewhere. The prison site is a tourist attraction. Internal scenes in the prison cell blocks were actually filmed on a soundstage built inside the nearby shuttered Westinghouse factory. Downtown scenes were also filmed in Mansfield, as well as neighboring Ashland, Ohio. The oak tree under which Andy buries his letter to Red is located at 40°39 euro squared 14 euro cubed N 82 23 euro squared 31 euro cubed W, near Malabar Farm State Park, in Lucas, Ohio. The tree was heavily damaged by straight-line winds in a thunderstorm on July 29, 2011. Officials were unsure if the tree would survive. However, thanks to rally groups and inspections by forestry organizations, the tree was found to be alive and well and still stands to this day. The beach at Zihuatanejo, made famous by the film, has recently been closed to the public due to a health warning as a result of high levels of pollution in the water. The film was dedicated to Alan Green, an agent and a close personal friend of the film's director, Frank Darabont. Green died shortly before the film was released due to complications of HIV/AIDS. Release: The Shawshank Redemption received a limited release on September 23, 1994 in North America. During its opening weekend, the film earned $727,000 from 33 theaters, an average of $22,040 per theater. It received a wide release on October 14, 1994, expanding to a total of 944 theaters to earn $2.4 million, an average of $2,545 per theater, finishing as the number 9 film of the weekend. The film left theaters in late November 1994, after 10 weeks with an approximate total gross of $16 million. It was later re-released in February 1995, during the Oscar season, and made an additional $9 million. In total, the film made approximately $28.3 million in North American theaters, making it the number 51 highest-grossing film of 1994 and the number 21 highest-grossing R-rated film of 1994. Critical response: The Shawshank Redemption garnered widespread critical acclaim from critics. Entertainment Weekly reviewer Owen Gleiberman praised the choice of scenery, writing that the moss dark, saturated images have a redolent sensuality that makes the film very realistic. While praising Morgan Freeman's acting and oratory skills as making Red appear real, Gleiberman felt that with the laconic good guy, Neo Gary Cooper role, Tim Robbins is unable to make Andy connect with the audience. The film garnered a 91% approval rating from 64 critiques, an average rating of 8.2 out of 10 on review aggregation website Rotten Tomatoes. Metacritic provides a score of 80 out of 100 from 19 critics, which indicates generally favorable reviews. The film has been critically acclaimed for depicting Jean-Paul Sartre's ideas about existentialism more fully than any other contemporary movie. Accolades: the film was nominated for 7 Academy Awards in 1994 without winning any: Best Picture, Best Actor for Freeman, Best Adapted Screenplay for Frank Darabont, Best Cinematography for Roger Deakins, Best Editing for Richard Francis Bruce, Best Original Score for Thomas Newman, and Best Sound Mixing for Robert J. Litt, Elliot Tyson, Michael Herbig and Willie D. Burton. It received 2 Golden Globe Award nominations for Best Performance by an Actor in a Motion Picture for Freeman, and Best Screenplay for Darabont. Robbins and Freeman were both nominated for Outstanding Performance by a Male Actor in a Leading Role at the inaugural Screen Actors Guild Awards in 1995. Darabont was nominated for a Directors Guild of America Award in 1994 for Best Director for a Feature Film, while cinematographer Roger Deakins won the American Society of Cinematographers Award for Outstanding Achievement in Cinematography. Home media: despite its disappointing box office return, Warner Brothers shipped 320,000 rental video copies throughout the United States, and it became one of the top rented films of 1995. The film's home viewing success was considered to be based on positive recommendations and repeat customers. The film's Academy Award nominations enabled it to fare well in the video sales and cable TV viewings. In June 1997, TNT, an American cable network, showed the film for the first time. The film was the first feature in TNT's Saturday Night New Classics. A 2004 Sunday Times article suggested that TNT aired the film frequently from then on, about once every 2 months. TV airings of the film accrued record-breaking numbers. Music. The score was composed by Thomas Newman and was nominated for an Academy Award for Best Original Score in 1994, which was his first Oscar nomination. Much of the score consists of faint piano music, and pizzicato strings during the more active or humorous moments. The score's 2 main themes only occur 2 or 3 times. The prison theme, first heard in the beginning as a 4-note ascending line in the bass, which is developed and reaches its climax when Andy is standing in the river in the rain. The second theme represents freedom, and is first heard when the inmates are sharing beer, feeling like free men. This theme doesn't reoccur until the final credits, this time grander, with more filled-out orchestration. Like Zimmer's score to The Thin Red Line, the track is often played in trailers during their most dramatic moments. Zimmer himself has credited the score as the one that has influenced everything the most, and that Newman opened up the harmonic palette of film scores. A central scene in the film features the letter duet from Mozart's The Marriage of Figaro. Legacy. In 1998, Shawshank was not listed in AFI's 100 Years. 100 movies, but 9 years later, it was number 72 on the revised list, outranking both Forrest Gump and Pulp Fiction, the 2 most critically acclaimed movies from the year of Shawshank's release. In 1999, film critic Roger Ebert listed Shawshank on his Great Movies list. It has been number 1 on IMDb's user-generated top 250 since 2008, when it surpassed The Godfather. Readers of Empire magazine voted the film as the best film of the 1990s, and it placed number 4 on Empire's list of the 500 greatest movies of all time in 2008. In March 2011, the film was voted by BBC Radio 1 and BBC Radio 1 Extra listeners as their favourite film of all time. Additionally, the Writers Guild of America included Frank Darabont's screenplay on its 101 Greatest Screenplays list, at number 22. See also, List of films considered the best, List of number 1 DVDs of 2002, List of number 1 DVDs of 2006, References. Further reading, Mark Kermode. The Shawshank Redemption. London, British Film Institute. ISBN A978-0-85170-968-0. Oliver, Simon. Watts, Pete. Shawshank Redemption and the Bible. Bibledex Verses. Brady Heron for the University of Nottingham. A discussion of Bible verses in the movie. Turner, Corey. On Location, Mansfield, Ohio. Shawshank Industry. All Things Considered. National Public Radio. External links, The Shawshank Redemption at the American Film Institute Catalog, The Shawshank Redemption at AllMovie, The Shawshank Redemption at the TCM Movie Database, The Shawshank Redemption at Box Office Mojo, The Shawshank Redemption at the Internet Movie Database, The Shawshank Redemption at Rotten Tomatoes.